They kind of have this perception that like he's on this path and then she's just kind of there to help him, like make his life easier, but really it's all about him. And see, that's another thing that a lot of Christians get wrong is, hello, welcome, I am Jared, and in this video I'm going to be responding to Bedros Keuilian's views on how to find a traditional woman, as well as looking at Brett Cooper's response to women being tired of being masculine.
We have somebody asking, first of all, let me layer it with what he started with. He says, dude, women are more masculine than ever nowadays.
I agree,
right?
by the way.
Yeah,
I agree.
For sure. But it's crazy because the men are more feminine also.
That's exactly why they're more masculine.
So it's like, it's all flip-flopped. And so he started by saying, women are more masculine than ever nowadays. And he wants to know, how can he find a traditionally feminine woman nowadays? Because he feels like there's none left.
Let's talk about that. The reason some women are more masculine these days is because the opposition, big government, media, pharmaceutical companies, the food corporations, conglomerates, their opposition is working together to demasculinize men, because men are the only threat against big government when big government tries to tyrannically take over our freedoms and our rights. And so they're using media for the last 20 years and eroding masculinity, making men softer by design, making them dumb, docile, dependent by design. Well, guess what?
Okay, well, he's partially right and he's partially incorrect here. He's right in that there is an opposition that is attempting to soften men and to make them docile, control them, because they are the only ones that are strong enough, capable enough to take over that evil and go against what is being pushed upon our current society. But he's incorrect in that he doesn't go a step further and really realize where this opposition is actually coming from. He kind of has more of a Illuminati style, like governmental, like humanistic viewpoint on this. And I don't know this guy where he comes from. This is kind of one of my first times listening to him. But as we all know as Christians, that the true opposition is Satan. Satan is the one that is orchestrating all of these governments and the media, social media, all of that stuff in order to make men docile. So let's continue on and see what more he has to say.
A woman still has a need for masculine energy. She needs the traits that a masculine man can provide, just like a man needs the soft touch and love and care and respect that a woman can provide. But when a woman's not getting that because the opposition has done such a great job and the feminist movement has done such a great job tearing down masculinity and everything, that all the traits that come with masculinity, strength, courage, honor, mastery, to speak your mind, to want to defend someone, to open doors for people, like all those chivalrous acts are now considered toxic. Well, women are like, I still want that. I still, like, if you're not willing to change a light bulb and fix something and be a masculine man and come to my defense, I must develop these masculine traits. And that's why they develop it. It's and by the way, it's a yin and yang. Like, you ever see that yin and yang, and the black and the white are perfectly together. This is why we have the sun and the moon. We have days and nights. We have summers and winters. All of life is a balance. And so we need both feminine and masculine energy. So when the masculine energy lowers in the universe, it must increase on the feminine side. Ironically, as women become more masculine, they step into masculine energy, men end up absorbing the feminine energy. There still has to be if there's going to be 1 million pounds of masculine energy and 1 million pounds of feminine energy, it's still going to exist.
Right.
It's just now they did the old flip-flop, right? Which is...
Okay, so here we have another humanistic viewpoint of how this energy is shifted when men and women don't do their intended roles. Again, he's a little off here. In Genesis 3:16, talks about part of the curse and what happens, and I'll bring this up a little bit later, but let's keep going on.
Is retarded. Can't happen. With that in mind, so how do we find a traditionally feminine woman? Traditionally feminine woman. That was the question. First of all, we don't need to go out there to find one. What we need to do is attract one, right? It's not a scavenger hunt. We need to attract one. And I know what people are going to say on the comments here on YouTube. man, all the good women are gone, black pill this, and, I'm just going to be asexual now. And,
Passport bros.
yeah, passport bros.
Go to
And
Colombia, man. That's
yeah,
what they're doing.
yeah, Colombia or some Asian continent. And right. And I get it. If that's your thing, cool. Yeah. But if you want to find someone locally, you can, but you have to attract them. And so first off, the very first thing I would say is make a list, an actual list of what this traditional feminine woman would be like. And I'm talking like looks. I'm talking about her traits, her behaviors, her habits, what hobbies is she into, everything. Like really make an avatar of who this woman is that you're looking for, so that on the off chance you spot her, you're like, motherfucker, there she is.
Yeah.
Like, look at that. She's got her hair in a bun and she's wearing a dress down to her ankles. And she's got like, I don't know, I'm just picturing some Amish woman, like a giant carafe of milk that she's carrying from some fucking place, right? She's on a horse and carriage, whatever your fucking thing is. Yeah, exactly. She's churning butter. She's, sewing a flag. That's her. Betsy Ross. That's her. I want her, right? Like whatever your definition is, draw her out. Like seriously, draw her out.
And great, yeah, you can come up with this list yourself, but there's a list like this kind of made for us already in the Bible. We can look at Proverbs 31. We're familiar with that one, but there's many elements in the Bible that talk about the roles of men and women, and it really doesn't get more complicated than that. You don't need to write all this stuff down. You need to just go to the source, which is the Bible and how God created us to be.
Out on a piece of paper, from looks to height, to how she smells, the habits, the skills that she might have, how she might approach people, what her social media might look like, by the way, right? Because everyone's got social media. What is her social media look like? Oh, right. She's probably not setting up thirst traps on social media, right? I would write that. She's probably got like, her bio is not a social justice warrior. She's not, she doesn't use all the pronouns in her bio. Exactly. She just is either a her or a her, right? Yeah. And so once you put that, then you go, oh shit, I got my avatar. Now here's the cool part. Get another sheet of paper and you go, what is this woman looking for? Who is the man that this woman is looking for? Mm-hmm. This is the hard part that men fail to do. Mm-hmm. On that clean sheet of paper, write down the man that this woman is looking for. Now that you've literally drawn out your avatar of the ideal traditional woman, what is she looking for? Someone masculine. Someone who's fit, someone who can financially provide, someone who's emotionally disciplined, someone who's a great leader, someone who's a great communicator. He's charismatic. He's a savage and a servant. Mm-hmm. He's chivalrous. He's a gentleman.
And here we are again for men. The list is also in the Bible. And if you're interested in me kind of laying that out in a video later, let me know in the comments, and I'll see if I can make a video about that. But let's finish up what he was trying to say.
Man, like I could start listing it off because these are all the things I'm looking for Chloe. My daughter Chloe is looking for those traits, those behaviors in a man because I've conditioned her that way. And so she is also the young woman who will naturally attract that guy. Mm-hmm. And so when you make that list and you're like, oh shit, I just made and you got to be very, very objective about this. Like you got to put all your emotions aside, not like what you think she should have, right? But like, honestly, like if you were to step into that woman that you just drew out, that avatar, mm-hmm. like you could just truly step into her and she's like, okay, I'm a traditional woman. So I'm going to stay at home, raise kids, not cause drama, just raise two, three amazing kids. Because that's the most important job I think that anyone could ever have, is to be able to give birth and raise amazing kids who are not going to be a liability to humanity. They're going to be assets like that.
Yeah, and exactly. And how does he know that is the best thing that you can do in this world? I'm not knocking this guy. I think he's got a lot of great points, and I think he's on the right track. But, again, in Genesis, it talks about the creation mandate and what we are meant to do here on earth. And it is to have a wife, procreate, and have dominion over the earth, to bring glory and honor to God, and actually to enjoy him forever. And so, again, we'll probably take a look at this, but in Genesis, it talks about the very thing that he's doing.
That is a mom's role. That is not the Montessori's role. That is not school's role. That is not the teacher's role. That is not grandparents' role. That is mom's role but the traditional man needs to be able to earn, right? And so if this dude's like, well, no, I want a woman who's a 2-income household. Well, motherfucker, you want traditional. Let's go back to caveman days.
Right.
Cave mama hung out with the babies, and once you dragged the brontosaurus in, she cooked it up. She knew how to prep it. She salvaged the rest of it for a later date, you guys to eat it. She did all the mom stuff, but you got to go out there and fight the brontosaurus. You got to go out there and figure out how to get that water from the river into your cave without the saber-toothed tiger eating you, right? So even in the caveman days, whatever traditional woman was.
And see, that's another thing that a lot of Christians get wrong is they see the verse that talks about that women were created on this earth as a help meet to their husband, and they kind of have this perception that like he's on this path and then she's just kind of there to help him, like make his life easier, but really it's all about him. And that's not actually what it says. In Genesis, it talks about the equality of man and woman in that before the eyes of God, they are literally equally as valuable, which means that the creation mandate of building a household with your wife and your children, it literally takes two equally important and powerful but different jobs, different ways of achieving that mission, but they have the same mission. And the mission's up here. The man is heading towards the mission, and he realized that he couldn't do it alone. And so God created woman and gave her the exact same mission that they come together and do and head up toward the same goal. So, he's really just talking out of the Bible here, but just a little off.
Anyway, moving on, the article also writes that, in other words, to be a soft girl is to radically reject the idea of being a girl boss, the bastion of feminine achievement that was an ideal during the tech boom of the late 2000s and 2010s. Women who strove to be girl bosses went to bed late and got up early to sweat it out at a Barry's or a SoulCycle. They idolized female business leaders like Sheryl Sandberg and Marissa Mayer, who famously worked from her hospital bed after she delivered twins, which is insane that was the norm, that we just decided that was okay. They sipped cocktails among other professionals at Audrey Gelman's The Wing, slathered on as much bomb.com as their face could handle from Emily Weiss's Glossier, pre-ordered the Sophia Amoruso's biz advice book literally called Girl Boss, while listening to Hillary Clinton speak about breaking the glass ceiling. I am cringing with every single example. The next generation of women have watched all of this unfold, observed our burnout and our late nights, our stress fractures and our egg freezing, we just talked about that, and said no thanks. What about if we just didn't try so hard? Yes, what if? What if we just rejected all of that? But also, I don't think it's right to say that being a soft girl and this whole thing is about trying less, because in order to be a stay-at-home mom or a stay-at-home wife, you do have to try. You do have to learn how to keep a home in order, how to organize your family's life. You do have to work on yourself so that you can become the type of woman that a traditional man will want, that a traditional man will want to support, so that you can live your soft girl life just going to Pilates and doing face masks. Like, getting facials and going to Pilates is fun, but it's not just about superficial self-care. Like, it's about going back to your biological, natural roots, which
Okay, so here's Brett Cooper, obviously from a completely different world than the other guy. But here we are again, somebody coming to the same conclusion that this guy is in order to attract a traditional man in this case, you have to go back to your traditional roots of being a traditional woman. And here we are again talking about the tradition of woman, of what did God design her to do. I just wanted to draw you guys' attention to this mantra or zeitgeist going around starting to build up in our culture right now, which I think is really good. It's a little off, when we take the Bible out of it, just because you talk about biblical things that you don't even know that you're talking about, it doesn't mean it's going to solve the issue. Okay, so here's the verses I wanted to bring up to you guys. This is taken out of the ESV. This is Genesis 3:16. To the woman he said, I will surely multiply your pain in childbearing. In pain you shall bring forth children. Your desire shall be for your husband, and he shall rule over you. Let's take a look at the King James Version. Unto the woman he said, I will greatly multiply thy sorrow and thy conception. In sorrow thou shalt bring forth children, and thy desire shall be to thy husband, and he shall rule over thee. So we have the New Living Translation. Then he said to the woman, I will sharpen the pain of your pregnancy, and in pain you will give birth, and you will desire to control your husband, but he will rule over you. Okay, so here's a pastor taking a look at this verse. And what he comes to is this. At question is whether or not the woman's desire for her husband is a desire for mastery. This interpretation was apparently first advanced by Susan Faw in the 70s. It amounts to saying that the woman will always want to gain mastery over the man, but tough luck, the man will nevertheless rule over her. In other words, the conflict for mastery between the sexes is a function of the curse. There is a parallel construction in the next chapter, Genesis 4:7, one which seems to make the desire/rule formula a question of mastery. Cain was being warned against sin, and God apparently refers to Abel's desire to defer to Cain and the firstborn Cain's rule over him. Therefore, given this reality, if you do right, will you not be accepted? In my view, sin being the entity having the desire to master Cain introduces too much grammatical and theological weirdness into the equation. On the other hand, Faw's interpretation is a novelty. Prior to this fairly recent attempt to parry the feminists, the standard interpretation was simply that the woman should be oriented toward her husband and therefore subject to him. Here is Calvin on it. For this form of speech, thy desire shall be unto thy husband, is of the same force as if he had said that she should not be free at her own command, but subject to the authority of her husband and dependent upon his will. Or as if he had said, thou shalt desire nothing but what thy husband wishes. She had indeed previously been subject to her husband, but that was a liberal and gentle subjection. Now, however, she is cast into servitude. But if we return to the classic view, given how much feminist water has run under the feckless evangelical bridge in the meantime, we have to be careful how we return to it. As a case in point, I would point to an interpretation that Wendy Alsup offers here. I believe it means an idolatrous longing for something from the man that she was created to receive from God alone. To interpret it this way is to introduce something new. It is more than just a simple return to an older view. Because of the curse, man was going to have a tough time with the thistles, and woman was going to be burdened with pains in childbirth. Now such things can be the occasion for sin, but they are not sin in themselves. Living in a fallen world is not the same thing as sinning. The frustrations that arise in a fallen world make it easier to sin, but having weeds in my garden is not essentially a sin. For God to co-sign the woman to an idolatrous longing is to co-sign her to an essentially sinful condition. Even if you argue that Christ came to reverse the curse, it still means that all married women from Eve to the era of Christ were idolaters. But if it is simple desire for her husband, then you leave room for that desire to be pursued sinfully or righteously. The responses a woman has to this desire can be obedient or disobedient, godly or ungodly. Headship and submission can certainly be an arena where sin occurs, but headship and submission are not essentially sinful. But this interpretation means if you come to the conclusion that the longing is essentially idolatrous, the Christian duty is therefore to mortify it. If Christ has dealt with this problem in the cross, then what does repentance look like? Near the end of her post, Alsup points to the situation where a wife has to stand up to an abusive husband. I agree that there are such situations. In this fallen world, no human authority can be treated as an absolute. Every human authority has appointed creational limits. Of course, there are times when women have to play the role of Abigail. But this interpretation would mean that every married woman has to cast down this idol. Not only so, but doing this while at the same time she is being submissive to her husband in all things. In Ephesians 5:24, being in subjection to him, 1 Peter 3:1, and having her submission be fitting to the Lord. But this is a real challenge. How can you cast down the idol of desire for your husband, that which enables him to rule over you, while simultaneously pursuing the desire to honor and serve him in all things? There would have to be a lot of higher math involved. Okay, so the reason why I brought these two videos up is, one, I wanted to show you that men and women are kind of coming to the same conclusion nearly at the exact same time, that they're not happy, they're not being fulfilled when they're chasing anything outside of what God ordained as the male and female role. I'm putting it up against Genesis 3:16, and I'm wanting to ask the question to you to contemplate and ponder, how does that verse play into this phenomenon of what's going on? And so, this is just a question I'm really pondering, and I really want to get to a conclusion, and I want to know what you guys think about this. So that's the end of the video. Consider subscribing. I'll see what question I have next.